You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Hey there, welcome to the NASP 2025 here at the Gaylord Rockies in Denver, Colorado. This is an exciting time where we're bringing together thousands of people focused on specialty pharmacy and the impact on our patients. You're not going to want to miss this. Stay tuned for the coverage of the NASP 2025, brought to you by the Pharmacy Podcast Network. A special partner of the Pharmacy Podcast Network in providing us funding in sponsorship for the NASP podcast is Accessia Health, and with me is Jennifer Noonan, who is no stranger to the pods. So welcome back, Jennifer.
Thank you. I think some might say I am a bit stranger, but in all of its glory, I'm glad to be here at NASP this year, and I'm super excited to speak with you again.
Well, we're excited to have you. We're really learning more and more about specialty pharmacy and what is the roadblocks to keeping patients adherent, and one of the largest, scariest roadblocks for any patient that finds out that they have a chronic disease that they're going to have to maintain sometimes for the rest of their life is, hey, how am I going to get this paid for? And Accessia Health's entire mission is assuring that that isn't a roadblock. Kind of expand upon how Accessia in specialty pharmacy specifically has really helped the patient.
Yeah. So we know that our organization was originally founded to help with copay support, and we certainly do that all day, every day still. But what we started to recognize over the last few years was that individuals who were able to use our assistance to get the gap filled between their out-of-pocket cost to get their treatment sometimes still weren't able to fully comply with that because they had a lot of barriers that weren't included in just the co-payment portion of that. And some of the biggest things we would see is nursing infusion costs, individuals who were able to infuse at home for, say, immune globulins or other types of treatments. Once we saw the emergency authorization that had been applied during COVID, patients were no longer able to infuse at home without incurring some out-of-pocket costs, but their quality of life without being in the hospital and picking up other bugs and without having to travel to and from would have some out-of-pocket costs for nursing assessments and nursing visits and supplies. So you get that surprise bill at the end of the month. And we've opened up our grants to be more flexible for individuals to use. So instead of having to choose one grant for only copayment help and another grant to help with premium support, we've combined those together. And as long as patients are utilizing that assistance toward their treatment for their disease, then we allow that under the same grant. We like to think it removes at least one burden out of a million that someone with a complex health condition has to face every day.
That flexibility is really comforting because there's a lot of people who don't even understand the process, and when they do get into it, they get to the first level, filling out their application. They're thinking that it's for a very specific part of the ecosystem or cycle of the payment for their total care, and you're saying copay versus premium, and then dialing to other things that might be ancillary to the treatment. It's so important to take the stress off.
It is. We just did a speaking engagement today talking about social determinants of health and implicit bias. And when you talk about those social determinants of health, and I think you and I talked about this a little bit last year, when people are overwhelmed with a new diagnosis or even just an old complex diagnosis that shows up every day to cause them burdens, just to be able to help lift some of that off, I think is huge. But people aren't able to hear and maintain information that's very important if their mind is on something more important to them, like food or housing or the ability to get to and from work. And so often we find people who haven't even been able to get to asking us for help, or when they do, our help isn't going to be as helpful if they have these other needs that are unmet. So we've been working on also trying to do some case management and offer some other educational supportive services to help people understand how to use their funding.
It's organizations like Accessia Health in communication with specialty pharmacies to educate the payer source or the funding source about what's truly needed in the life of a specialty pharmacist patient. That's important. Talk to us about how you've pushed that information back to funding sources and say, hey, there's a bigger thing here than just getting the drug paid.
Yeah, I think that for my part of this piece in the ecosystem, it's about building relationships first and foremost with the patient advocacy groups that know exactly what they are struggling to get in order to get to their healthcare needs. But then the provider groups, and I think often we overlook specialty pharmacies, or we don't think of them as a provider, but that they're the biggest provider once a diagnosis is made and a treatment is prescribed, because they pick up that from then on and carry it. And so what we're trying to do is be better partners with specialty pharmacies, helping them understand how they can apply on behalf of patients, and most importantly, just that we're here. And so if they have sources that they've utilized on their own for funding, that they keep us in that bank of resources. And we do that on our own website. If someone comes to Accessia Health and applies for funding in a program that's at capacity and they're waitlisted and their need is great, we list the resources of the other financial organizations that are out there, because we want to ensure that everybody knows all the resources, and then they can make informed decisions that make sense.
You were telling me about that, and it was so collaborative and it was so driven, where it was the patient that was the most important part of the whole process. And now you're getting them access to funding through just your organization, but the collective of the organizations that you've worked with.
I think the most important part about this ecosystem we keep talking about, that's very strained right now under legislative uncertainties in many regards, newborn screening, which is essential in order for rare disease patients to get treatment immediately. Some of those different things that have been safeguards for our community are not necessarily gone, but they're definitely, we're questioning the stability of those agencies and whether or not we're going to have to kind of start moving into doing things on our own. You asked earlier about passing this information along. We try to collect stories about patients and their impact, so that we can provide something positive back to partners that are donors, because we can't give a lot of information back just based on compliance,
right.
But who doesn't want to hear the good work that has come? So we definitely have been working harder at collecting and utilizing patient stories, because once you can tie an important matter back to something relatable to people who maybe aren't familiar with this industry, you can usually get buy-in. If you attach it to a person and an emotion, then it makes sense. And you see that with senators and House representatives too. It's like they had no idea, and then you put a patient in front of them and it suddenly makes it real and human. Yeah.
It's very true. Jennifer Noonan with Accessia Health. We will be right back with the NASP podcast.
Accessia Health, a national charitable patient assistance organization, is dedicated to eliminating healthcare barriers for those with rare or chronic health conditions. Through personalized case management, financial assistance, education, and legal support, the organization provides more than copay relief. It delivers a full spectrum of services that address the real costs of care. Founded by patients for patients, Accessia Health helps cover essential expenses like insurance premiums, diagnostic testing, counseling and therapy services, travel, and more. Their inclusive, outcomes-focused approach supports people throughout their healthcare journey. Learn how Accessia Health is closing gaps in care and improving lives across the country. Visit accessiahealth.org today.
Hey, here with Nick Negri with ALTOR. Nick, welcome to the NASP 2025.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, you've been here many times. I've seen you. Talk to us about ALTOR. What are you doing in specialty pharmacy?
So we are actually perfect. So we're the leading manufacturer of temperature-controlled packaging, specifically foam-based, so EPS, so expanded polyurethane. Yep. And so what we're doing is we are innovating, building solutions, temperature-controlled packaging. So obviously, your medication can get from point A to point B.
Yep.
Safely, securely, so there's no compliance issues, patient safety. So
in rare disease, Nick, is this any medication, or is it very sensitive to specific medications that have to stay a certain temperature?
No, probably about 80% of specialty medications are temperature sensitive. Okay. So there's some sort of, so the majority of them are probably 2 to 8 degrees Celsius is, I would say, the majority of where that is, but there are some sub-zero and some warmer ambient room temperature medications as well. And we'll address that. I'm
sure your team watches the clinical trials because of the increase of rare disease accessible medications. What does that mean for ALTOR? Are you starting to look to the future of saying, are we going to adjust temperatures? Should things not go over a specific temperature versus another? Are there disease state medications that have to stay within 72 degrees versus 92 degrees or something?
Yeah, so we're following it. I would say we're following the drug pipeline as a whole. And following the actual medication is honestly a better and more strategic strategy so that we can actually tailor our solutions back to the actual medication and what those temperatures are. So each manufacturer will actually have its own mandates of what temperature they have to, what it has to be stored at, shipped at, duration, all that kind of good stuff. You know, obviously as you get into distributing it through the pharmacy. So we're following all that. So we're staying educated. It's a big part of this show.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So if I'm listening to the show, I'm hearing this, it's something that I've been worried about or concerned about, what's the best way to reach out to you? How do I get a hold of you?
So you can get us at altorsolutions.com. It's our website, brand new website that we actually launched earlier this year. So it's a great way, great resources. You can kind of very user-friendly. So, or you can reach out to our customer service directly or myself. Okay. So I'm the business development manager. So
altorsolutions.com. ALTOR is ALTOR solutions.com.
That is correct.
All right, Nick, thanks for being on the show.
Yep. No, appreciate it, Todd.
Hey, this is Cecila Byers with Surescripts, and you're listening to the NASP podcast.
Cecila Byers, Surescripts. I don't know, what number is this that you're on the NASP podcast post show?
I think this is 4. Year number 4. It doesn't even seem possible, but I think it's number 4.
I think either Harry Travis, you, Sheila Arquette cheated because she's part of the NASP. Right. We can't count her. We have to figure out who our longest going guest is of the show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when we count back, this is probably number 4 for this particular one. Been coming a lot longer than that, but for the podcast, 4. I think it's a solid 4 years.
Well, it's good to see you.
You as well.
All right, so what an age. When I say that word, it's actually making me feel old, but the age of specialty pharmacy, I feel like this is the early 20 years of its life, because we're really starting to gain a lot of strength and a lot of authority, and there's artificial intelligence is just blowing up everything. But when I think of the challenges of what specialty goes through specifically, reducing complexity around specialty medication fulfillment and all of the nuance and all of the processes and the nicks and crannies of missing information. Talk to us about how Surescripts is stepping in for specialty pharmacies.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I started at Surescripts almost 6 years ago now, there continues to be huge opportunities to really address all the different facets of fulfilling that medication in specialty pharmacies. From onboarding, right, with clinical information, interoperability, right, that was a key word that continues to be a buzzword in the industry. We think QHIN, TEFCA, Quality Health Information Network, and Trusted Exchange Framework, and common agreement. And Surescripts is really starting to step into that place as a qualified QHIN now, and bringing more information to pharmacies at the point of care when it's needed. We think about the benefit verification process, right? Calling insurance companies. We have solutions around real-time prescription benefit to help bring more of that information into the line of sight at the point of processing, avoid some of those phone calls. one of the areas that we're really looking into and that I'm most excited about for next year is how do we improve our prior authorization solution for pharmacies? How do we bring in some of those automatic processes, whether it's artificial intelligence or some facets of that with like language models and clinical data to help streamline the process for those pharmacists to answer those questions, to get them submitted in a more streamlined approach. And again, all while trying to free up the time for the pharmacist to focus on what's most important in this whole process, and that's the patient.
I think of the dysfunction in my life where I do something and I never think of that I need help to get out of my own way. And I think of specialty pharmacies not understanding some of the programs and kind of some of the services that Surescripts is even providing, and overlooking the solutions that could be brought to their organizations. So when I think of that, I think of the real pudding, the proof in the pudding of everything. Why am I thinking of pudding? I think it's because it's lunchtime. But it's the delays to treatment. It's what's impacting the patient. That's what this is all about. Talk to us about what Surescripts is doing to help get rid of those delays.
Absolutely. I mean, I think of one of our most innovative things we just released in last year is touchless prior authorization. It doesn't necessarily impact the pharmacy like at the point of care, but it does. And with touchless prior authorization, what that does is it really is a partnership with our PBM partners. Mm-hmm. And, how do we actually get a prior authorization to be approved without anybody touching it at all, right? And that's happening today. And the expansion that we're looking to do with that, and even how a pharmacy might be able to kick something like that off in that intersection to be able to really make sure that we're saving time across the continuum of that prescribing process, that patient journey, that doesn't just, impact the pharmacy itself, but also the physician and the work that's happening there, right? Pharmacies can only do so much before it has to go back to the physician to do that. So as we're even thinking across the continuum of what Surescripts offers, it's not just in the pharmacy, it's at the EHR level, it's with the PBM partners, It's just our whole network that really comes together to try to find ways to innovatively solve some of these problems.
I always love talking to you and seeing you, Cecilia. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Let's do a twerk sometime in This Week in Pharmacy and have you come on and talk with a couple of our pharmacies that are out there. Yeah,
I think that'd be great. I love talking to our pharmacy partners. It fills my cup talking to pharmacies and being here. So, Todd, thank you again for having me on.
Thank you. Hey, shout out to our specialty pharmacists and pharmacy owners and pharmacy operators out there concentrating on rare disease, specialty pharmacy specific disease state management. Do you understand what the NASP does and the power that it brings to our profession, the protections that it brings, the education that it brings, federal and state advocacy, government affairs committee workshops, grassroots advocacy, education including abstract and poster programs, the CMRO, a NASP partnered journal, education-centered presenter, educational committee and work groups. The NASP is leading the Certified Specialty Pharmacist, the CSP credentials. Look into the NASP. Reach out to one of their members. We're excited to be here at the NASP 2025. Meeting up back with Dr. Jill Paslier with Specia. Welcome back to the show. It's so nice to see you again.
Hey, Todd. So glad I ran into you.
Well, you're all over the place. You've been traveling a lot. I watch your life through LinkedIn. Talk to us about being here at NASP and how your organization would fit into specialty pharmacy.
Yeah, I love this conference. It's one of my favorite specialty conferences, and I do go to a few of them. This one, I have been quite involved today during the accreditation workshop. Mm-hmm. So I was either facilitating or speaking in 3 sessions. So just sharing the love with accreditation. Not everyone loves that, but I try to give some excitement around it and some education. So that was really fun. And then the rest of the week, I'm mostly meeting with people. So just super smart specialty pharmacy leaders, both specialty pharmacies, from tech solutions, consultants, all over the board. And then I do have one more presentation on Tuesday about training a non-specialty pharmacist to become a specialty pharmacist.
Okay.
So that's how I'm going to be spending my time. And I'm really excited. My business, Specia, is we're getting a lot of interest and traction. We provide disease-specific clinical reviews, which are great for educating new specialty clinicians or just as a daily resource or reference for your pharmacist. And then we also have disease-specific clinical workflows, which can be embedded into partner software solutions. So we're working to embed it into Epic, Cassian. We already have a couple pharmacies using it which ones? Pioneer RX and blanking on the last one.
That's all right. Too many systems.
Yes, a couple systems, which is very exciting. So so we have these workflows. They support accreditation and clinical care. I'm really excited to be sharing more about that.
So I like when you're talking about accreditation. We're working on one, the first of its kind, evidence-based podcasting, so that it will be peer-reviewed just as a journal would be.
Wow.
So how does Specia assure that the information that is being utilized is in fact evidence-based?
Yeah. So all of our content is based on clinical and scientific evidence and resources. We have citations throughout. It's all in AMA citation format. And all of our writers and peer reviewers, all of our content is both written and peer reviewed by specialty pharmacists. So at least one of those is a practicing specialty pharmacist who works full-time in a specialty pharmacy. And usually, actually, so far, at least one of those is also a CSP certified specialty pharmacist. So they really are the experts, and they're reviewing the content, but ultimately they're making sure that our content is based on those, the evidence and the clinical literature, guidelines, resources, things like that.
That's awesome. If someone's listening, I'm an operator, I'm running a specialty pharmacy, I want to hear more about what you're doing. What's the best way to get information about your organization?
It's really easy to find me on LinkedIn. I have a unique name, I'm the only one. So it's Jill, Jill, last name Paslier. And then also our website has plenty of great information. We have some brand new screenshots up there so you can actually see what I'm talking about when I say a workflow and a clinical review. We've got more demos and info right on the website, which is exciting. And our website is SpeciaRx.com. So Specia is special without the L, SPECIA RX.com.
Very good. And if you can't get a hold of Jill, reach out to me. I will put you in touch with her. She is fabulous. I love what you're doing, Jill, and it was really good catching up with you.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it.
Jonathan Hamrick, the last time we talked was NASP 2024.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, Todd. Yes.
Nice to see you.
You as well.
All right. So you are giving us some overview. You were talking before we started recording about building stronger relationships with the manufacturers on purpose, and then how that trickles down to the specialty pharmacies that you've been helping. Talk to us about your background and a little bit about the organization, just in case the listeners don't know.
Yeah, sure. So Curatio Advisors focus on supporting the channel strategy and service model design, working with manufacturers as products, particularly specialty products, leave late phase 2 or early phase 3 as the manufacturers are really beginning the process for commercializing those drugs and thinking about how does the distribution and service model for those products integrate with the brand planning process. So we support them on that. Everything from the research around the patient journey, designing the things that would optimize and mitigate the pain points for the patient and the providers along that way, and thinking about which pharmacy providers and other pharma services providers might be able to support those efforts. At the end of the day, that's what we do a lot of.
Sean Jensen's back here on the pods, and you've worked with Jonathan, you've worked with the teams, you've worked with many organizations. Talk to me about the tech.
About the tech, well, I mean, John knows the tech as well as anybody, and I've been bringing some friends here today, but today I bring a lot of work friends. I brought a friend, a true friend outside of work and within work. So John's a great guy. I've known him a long time. He knows the tech. He appreciates. His days in therapy, big, household name around here. But just seeing, we were speaking earlier this year, and he was presenting a use case about AI and just kind of where his mind's at, and some of the stuff he's thinking about right now is just so interesting. So I just wanted to bring him on, meet with him and talk about it. There's a lot of cool things going on.
When you're looking at where we've been, you've been around long enough to kind of track this out. AI enters the game maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. Now it's intense. From your perspective, where is the best leverage of artificial intelligence in the ecosystem of specialty pharmacy?
You know, we did a talk at the Association for Value-Based Cancer Care last year where the topic was like, what is the uptake of AI across, and I think it's similar in just specialty pharmacy in general, that in some ways they're sort of like, how is AI being used to support enhancement or efficiency in operational processes? So you see a lot of efforts to support workflow and operational processes, as well as sort of like supporting the approval processes and all the things that are happening there. So that's a big use case that people are seeing. There's the other bucket that we're seeing a lot of is around if you think of assistants and virtual assistants and leveraging AI, and healthcare is a real natural for that, because so much of what we do is protocol driven, and what's going on inside of the specialty pharmacy's care management operations is protocol driven, which is generally speaking, you know, amenable to leveraging AI agents to support that activity. So we're seeing that sort of effort. The other one that people don't talk as much about is leveraging it for data and leveraging AI for as a research assistant, and we're doing a lot of work in that area, and that's what's really exciting, if you will, to me, and it's just beginning. I mean, lastly, what you're seeing is AI to support actual clinical decisioning, and that's I think going slower than the other areas, just because people are, you know, crawl before you walk and run in that segment. So I would say that's the overview that I have of what we're seeing with AI. I think also relative to specialty pharmacy and hub services in general, manufacturers and the service providers themselves, whether they're hub service providers or specialty pharmacies, they're all exploring how to best leverage AI right now. And what we're seeing today versus what we're going to be seeing in about 6-8 months is going to be maybe very different. One last thing I would say is that we supported a survey recently of patient services executives and managers across pharma, and what they thought the role of AI would be. And I guess suffice to say, it is nobody has the answer right now. The cement is being mixed, not even really poured yet. So a lot's going to happen over the next 24, 36 months in this space.
Yeah, we did a survey through NASP, and in terms of adoption, like AI in pharmacies, it's still really, really low, obviously, but I think it was like literally 100% said they'd already taken steps to either implement it, look into implementing it, like they'd formed teams, AI review committees, like everything, you name it, but literally 100% of the respondents. Like, I don't think in America you can ask any question and get 100% to say the same answer, and literally it was like, are you considering AI within the next 12 months in your pharmacy? Every response we got at NASP committee said that, so it's clearly an area where people are going.
Using my imagination again, every time I say that, Sean's like, oh, this is going to cost money. So I think of taking an AI bot or system, marrying it with Wolters Kluwer or a Medispan database, going back to a specialty pharmacy that had 100 patients that were on, I don't know, one of the NAB drugs, one of the blood disorder drugs, knowing how they reacted to it over the period of 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, gathering that data off the 100 patients and coming up with queries as to what the average response was to treatment. And then once again, now that you have all the NDC information, being able to cross out any of the drug food, drug allergies, and kind of like dialing in. I think there's something to the clinical expansion of getting ahead of treatments and getting a specialty pharmacist that deals in a specific disease state to understand what the statistics are going to tell them to rush them in getting to next decisions faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so much data these days, and like, we're better to put technology in general and AI specifically, you know, at sorting through all that data. So, you know, anywhere that can be put together and put to use to help the patient and help treatment and, you know, you name it, that's what's being done right now. It's a really exciting time.
What sector of of pharmacies inside specialty pharmacy. Jonathan, are you helping? I think of health systems that want to build out their specialty pharmacy programs. I think of startups. I think of existing pharmacies that want to scale. What's your sweet spot? Who are you helping?
I think it's a great question, but it's also like the spectrum. And when I say that, when you think about a product that's being launched into the marketplace, there's what is the core specialty pharmacy network if it's going to be a limited distribution product that's leveraged? What are the health systems and their SPs that are going to have access to the product? And how are they going to be both providing services and what's the data solution for that segment? I would say one of the hottest spots right now in specialty, with 60% of the specialty pipeline being infused therapies, is the ambulatory infusion centers, AIS, and infusion space in general. And that landscape is all I can say is it's just super hot across the pharma side, across private equity is really buying a lot of those companies, merging a lot of those companies, because so much of the pipeline is being delivered in that segment. So, at the end of the day, it's about creating an entire, if you will, ecosystem for a product across all those care, that care continuum.
What's old is new. We're talking about infusion again. Yeah. This is like going back 25, 28 years.
Sean, you're so right. It was like I was telling somebody yesterday, it's like 1998, 2003,
that's exactly
like
where my head's at right
medical
now.
benefit, big margins on that side, and then all of a sudden switch over to all pharmacy benefit. And I would say in general, the hard thing is that biologic injectable drugs that are self-administered, the margins are really thin right now. And that's a big problem in the industry, just writ large. And so you're seeing a lot of more activity on these medical benefit products.
I think, John mentioned it just in the beginning here. The relationship with the pharmacy and pharma is so important, and it's a bi-directional, true partnership. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these meetings are to really connect those two together, but not a lot of people are focused so much on that relationship and how important it is. And as a pharmacy, to position yourself in the best way to pharma is just that's vital to staying alive, especially right now. So what's going on at NASP, what's going on with Curatio, this is a really, really important relationship to be looking at.
Yeah, I totally align with Sean on that, and I think the other thing with all the changes, in some ways things stay the same. The most important thing that stays the same is that I would say pharma is really inquisitive right now, trying to think about the landscape that exists today, how it's changed. As long as every participant in the continuum puts the patient first and thinks about the journey and figures out how to try to mitigate the issues that stand between a patient quickly getting the therapy that's been prescribed to them, everything else will take care of itself. And from Sean's, I think in Sean's world, being able to prove that through the data that is provided is so foundational, right? And for example, we were just talking about a minute ago of the medical benefit or HCP administered drugs and what's going on in that landscape. I feel like specialty pharmacy is pretty standardized now in terms of the general data sets you see. And that all came out of the last 15 years. I feel like there's segments where data sets are also being standardized, but it's going to take a little bit of time in those other segments. And everybody's trying to figure that out right now.
Sean and Jonathan, thank you so much for being part of the NASP's post-show. We're looking forward to hearing more from you, Sean, in an upcoming series that we're going to dig more into this specialty pharmacy fused with artificial intelligence talk. So thank you.
Sounds great, Todd. Thank you.
Todd, thank you, and the Pharmacy Podcast for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
You're the best. Yeah, man.
The mission of the NASP is to empower specialty pharmacy stakeholders to advance the standard of patient care. Our vision is to help create a world where every specialty pharmacy patient benefits from life-changing care.
Within the evolution of podcasting, which might even seem trivial to listeners, but I believe in this so much as a means of education that we're coming out with a certification I put in a trademark for, then working on a patent, didn't realize patents were so expensive. And it's going to be called evidence-based podcasting. And what that's going to be is peer-reviewed podcast information that's going to be listening to. It's going to be as good as reading a journal. and we're going to get subjective people to be able to dig into the content and say, maybe this isn't right, maybe this is, because there's just too many podcasts out there not to have a way to marry CE with something that you're listening to audio. And when I think of certifications and I think of the way that we're raising standards, I think of the NASP and the certified specialty pharmacists and what that means for their career, what that means for our standards, what that means for our patients. I have 2 members of the Certified Specialty Pharmacist Initiative in the board, and I want to introduce you both. Jonathan, let's start with you. Introduce yourself to the listeners, let them know your background, and then let's get into this.
Yeah, sure. Jonathan Orgurchak, Pittsburgh born and bred, just like you, Todd, but I'm the current chair-elect for the SPCB, and excited to be here. Work with Independent Specialty Pharmacy in Pittsburgh, CEO and co-founder of Zeal Specialty Pharmacy, and run a tech company as well. So I have my hands in a lot of things, but the CSP in particular I've been passionate about for a long, long time.
I can tell. All right, Brandon, talk to us about what you're doing. Introduce yourself to the listeners and let them know your background and why you're involved. Why are you passionate about a certification just for specialty pharmacists?
Thanks, Todd. It's a real honor to be on with the Podfather. I've been a fan for a long time, so it's pretty cool to do this now. I'm Brandon Hardin. I'm the current chair of the Specialty Pharmacy Certification Board. I've been in specialty pharmacy full-time since 2012, started out in the PBM space, then did independent specialty pharmacy, and since 2018, I've been in the health system specialty pharmacy space. As far as the value of the credential, I first earned the CSP credential in 2016, and it's an investment I made in my own career that has paid for itself several times over. I've made a bunch of wonderful friends. It's allowed me to stand out as a certified expert in the field of specialty pharmacy for a long time now. And in 2022, when I had the opportunity to join the board, I felt a certain obligation to pay back what the credential had given to me. Mm-hmm. And then that advanced a little bit further, and I've had the opportunity to lead this board for the past 2 years now, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's awesome. I'm going to use my imagination. I'm not a pharmacist. I just play one on podcasts, and I always think, validity of information. The element of fake news, the element of fake information or Dr. Google, and now all of a sudden we have the advent of AI. And while AI is wonderful and it's great and it does a lot of good things, there's also an opportunity to develop information and criteria that may not be evidence-based. So when I think of the certified specialty pharmacist, I immediately think that someone's taken the time to tell a physician or to tell a health plan or to tell somebody that this pharmacist knows what they're doing in this specific space. Even to say, hey, I'm a certified specialty pharmacist in HIV or some blood disorder. Jonathan, expand upon that of why the importance of this certification is really, it's important to the entire specialty pharmacy sector.
Absolutely. I mean, it's more than just letters after your name on a business card or on a LinkedIn profile or something like that. It really does help to solidify your role in the profession. It's not just, there's an exam component to it, so you actually have to prove your knowledge of a number of different domains across all of specialty, but there's a practice component. You have to practice so many hours as a specialty pharmacist. You have to do so much continuing education that's focused in specialty. It's really showing that those of us that hold this credential have gone above and beyond just to focus in this area of practice. And it really does help whenever we're talking to payers, when we're talking to pharma, when we're talking to our peers, to show that we've taken that extra initiative to the point, just to go above and beyond and try to help to further the profession and further our role within helping to grow this whole area of specialty.
So I have podcasts, Brandon, that focus on pediatrics, focus on senior care, focus on, obviously, shout out to Sheila Arquette and the NASP podcast, focused on specialty, and that's great. What I'm thinking of is the board of specialties that is actually out there that has certifications. This is an extension of something that's very special, and being able to surround people with every aspect of it, whether it's some advocacy group or funding creation or NCPDP tie it in of how we're getting data to the right places to get reimbursed. Talk to us about how this is going to affect the entire ecosystem of specialty pharmacy, not just one or two specialty pharmacies. It's the whole thing.
Sure. So when we think about the value proposition of our credential, the certified specialty pharmacist, whether we're talking about the pharmacists that hold the credential, the organizations that employ them, the patients that are cared for by them, we want our when somebody sees CSP, we want them to think about what Jonathan just said a moment ago, above and beyond, the best standard of care, patient experience, provider experience possible. And when we look at the domains of how our exam is set up, it was originally developed as a credential that is meant to signify clinical expertise, and that is still the heaviest weighted domain on our exam. It's about 65%. But 35% is still a pretty large number when we're talking about intake and benefits investigation, medical benefit versus pharmacy benefit, knowledge of copay assistance programs, especially more recently, knowledge of advocacy programs. We hear an awful lot about social determinants of health and different areas that are not related to pharmaceutical care. That's about knowing where your resources are. Yeah, you come to see the pharmacist when you need drugs, but we also need to know where to send you within health systems or within the broader community. If I can't help you, I need to be able to show you to somebody who can. So we've placed a large premium on the holistic patient experience, the holistic provider experience, because ultimately, if we can't provide that, people aren't going to find value in our credential.
Yes.
So those are kind of the things we think about as a board, and we have, we have a couple new board members that we just oriented yesterday here at the conference, and we talk an awful lot about, I look forward to our board meetings because it's beautiful minds that really just want to make our profession a better place and our space the gold standard for medical care and pharmaceutical care. It's really fun to hear those ideas and then turn them into action. So it's been a real fun experience.
I love it. All right, so what's next for specialty pharmacists, CSP? Do you see the future of this being specific to a disease state or specific to condition or chronic? Are you going to start giving pharmacists who want to dial into something very direct, very specialized?
Well, I know Brandon can speak to this more than I can, but I just know that the credential itself continues to evolve, and our role as a board continues to evolve, just to make sure we're representing what's going on with the industry. I mean, every couple of years we do a whole job task analysis just to make sure that the things that we're testing on are still applicable to the practice of specialty. And that was one of the things that we had identified as, there's a certain hours requirement in order to be able to sit for the exam. What are some things that we could do for up-and-comers in the profession that might be looking to show that they are focused on wanting to better themselves as clinicians, but maybe they haven't put in their 3,000 hours that it takes to be able to sit for the exam. So we're looking at ways that we could bridge that. We're looking at ways that we can take and find different areas across the profession that are representative of, it's not just pharmacists. I mean, pharmacists, we do a lot, but it's, the whole team that actually comes together to take care of those patients at the end of the day. So what can we as a board do to help support, validating some of the other tools and the other resources that are part of that care team? We're looking at a number of those different types of solutions. Brandon, I don't know if you could talk a little bit more about that.
I can. So Jonathan, there's two common requests we get, Todd, within the broader marketplace. Jonathan just touched on one of the major ones. How do we bridge that gap between pharmacy school graduation, just entering specialty pharmacy in the profession, and having the hours to sit for the exam? They want to be able to differentiate themselves earlier on. So we're considering that feedback and we're looking into that. The other one is what you alluded to at the beginning of the question, which is, okay, yeah, I'm a CSP, but I work in HIV all the time. I want a certification that specifies I'm an expert in HIV. We look at those things as well. What we have done recently since I came on the board and then, got elected as the chair, we've expanded the size of our board for two reasons. Number one, specialty pharmacy has evolved significantly in terms of the number of stakeholders and the different areas of practice that occur for specialty pharmacists, whether that's independent specialty, consulting, health system, different pharma. We have a bunch of different stakeholders that we need to satisfy and have represented on our board. So we've expanded the size of our board for that reason, and we've expanded the size of our board because of all these different initiatives that we're hearing from the marketplace where, yeah, the CSP is great, but we need you to do this, we need you to do that. Ultimately, that's about incorporating the voice of the customer, And our customer is the profession of pharmacy, specialty pharmacy space, and the holders of our credential. Not just those that hold the credential, but also the people that employ them. So we listen to the market very, very closely. We've comprised our board to try to represent those different areas, and we're very much in action mode right now. Historically, there's always been a lot of great ideas exchanged, but now we're trying to put some hay in the barn, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think another thing to kind of bring up, our credential is the only accredited credential out there for specialty pharmacists. I mean, there's something to be said about, accreditation is my background for some of the stuff. I mean, there's something to be said about going above and beyond to make sure that you really want to put your money where your mouth is. And that's something where, as a board, we continue to reevaluate and collect that feedback to make sure not only is it an obligation to our credential holders, but it's an obligation to ourselves, because we need to maintain our accreditation just to show that there's some value to this. It's not just another throwaway sort of thing that somebody's doing on the fly.
Dr. Jonathan Orgurchak and Dr. Brandon Hardin, really appreciate you being part of the NASP podcast and what you're doing with these certified specialty pharmacists, and we'd love to hear more. We don't have to wait till Maryland next year when we all meet up in Baltimore at NASP 2026. You're more than welcome to come back on This Week in Pharmacy or another one of our programs, so thank you.
Sounds great, Todd.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Hi, this is Steve Polyakov from Tartakowinsky & Drogan here at NASP 2025. I'm a pharmacy attorney and happy to answer questions.
Steve, I have questions. Fraud, waste, and abuse, compliancy. There's so many pitfalls that a specialty pharmacy may fall into because that's not their gig. That's not their specialty. Their specialty is taking care of patients and making sure that they're staying adherent on a medication that's pretty expensive. But you have a very unique position in this industry that we need. So talk to us about the workshop and some of the things that you've been talking about here at NASP.
Absolutely. So at NASP, I will be presenting on fraud, waste, and abuse, as we just said. And the idea is to kind of demonstrate some of the pitfalls. There's marketing pitfalls, right? There's issues of kickback, which there's very heavy rules and regulations against. So I'm kind of talking about hey, if you're entering into a deal with the marketing company, make sure it's all flat fee based versus volume based. There's issues of how to deal with staff and HIPAA. So when dealing with HIPAA issues, you also want to make sure, as it ties in with fraud, waste, and abuse, right? You don't want to be willy-nilly handing out patient information to who's ever asking, right? So there's specific compliance programs that go into that. Similarly, the biggest issue in fraud, waste, and abuse is dealing with the PBMs and the pharmacies that have issues that oftentimes are inadvertent, is when you potentially dispense something and the patient doesn't pick it up, and then you forget to kind of get that back, right? So you want to make sure that everything you dispense is backed by an invoice. You want to make sure that when your staff is dealing with dispensing the medications, especially in specialty, which is under a microscope, when dealing with PBMs, you want to make sure that everything syncs up, because the worst thing to happen is inadvertent errors, and then the next thing you know, you can lose your contract. There's a big audit. They look back at you for 3 years, and that's the worst thing that can happen.
I almost think of I'm out of shape. I go to the gym. I try to work out myself. Not exactly what sure to do. I hire my workout coach. They come in, and sure enough, things work better. Talk to us about what you're doing with specialty pharmacies to take them through the auditing process to make sure that when they do get audited, that they're passing with flying colors.
So what we generally like to do is create a comprehensive compliance policy and then do the training for that compliance policy. So we tell them how to manage the inventory. We tell them how to manage the wholesalers, how to make sure the invoices are in line. And it's a step-by-step process that we, as a coach, come in and go through the details. And there's the inventory management, there's a dispensing management, there's inadvertent errors and how to report those to make sure that everyone's aware and that you are being fully transparent. And again, on how to handle patient records. That's also a big part of it. So that's what we really do. And then we sort of do follow-ups afterwards, just kind of do spot checking. We do our own internal audits to say, hey guys, we gave you this wonderful compliance program. Let's see if you're following it. Let me, the friendly person, find all the flaws so we can patch the holes, as opposed to somebody else blowing them up and have the ship sink.
Like a PBM coming back for some of their money.
That's exactly right. So the PBMs love to audit specialty pharmacies. I mean, all the specialties know this, right? And they love to cancel contracts because they want to steer you to their pharmacies, right? Even though that's illegal. But, the PBMs are not notoriously known for following the law. But essentially, we want to make sure that if there's any holes, we patch them without a PBM coming in doing the audit. The worst things that can happen, look, at the end of the day, if there's an overpayment determination, you pay them, you kind of continue operating. If they cancel your contract with one of the 5 PBMs, potentially 20% or more of your business is gone. We make sure you keep those contracts, and we handle those. So in the event that a PBM is alleging fraud, waste, and abuse, and they're threatening to terminate the contract, we come in and deal with it. We go through arbitration. We go to bat for our clients and make sure that, again, we're assuming good faith on behalf of our clients, and we want to make sure that the PBM did the right thing when doing that audit versus you being across the street from a CVS.
Excellent. Steve, thank you so much for these insights here at the NASP 2025 here in Denver. Thank you.
Todd, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Cold Chain Technologies. Tammy Dean, welcome to the NASP podcast.
Thank you, Todd. I'm a global marketing manager for Cold Chain Technologies. I've been with them for about 7 years now. One of my major focuses there is the products and services that a specialty pharmacy would need to stay in cold chain compliance when shipping.
Yeah. So why does Cold Chain Technologies invest in coming and supporting the NASP?
Yeah, we love coming to NASP. This is, I think, our 5th or 6th year here. We attend to network and connect with specialty pharmacies. And we also take the opportunity to learn what's happening in the specialty pharmacy segment. And we also think that Sheila and her team do a wonderful job organizing this event.
Yeah, it takes a lot of soldiers and horses and Humpty Dumpty doesn't just doesn't get placed up on the wall without anybody. It's very important.
Yes, you can tell a lot of work and planning goes into this event.
Absolutely. So I've heard that you have a information source for clients, for customers, people out there in the market. It's a newsletter. Kind of open up about that. Tell us about that.
Sure. In early 2025, we started a quarterly newsletter that's dedicated to helping specialty pharmacies with cold chain compliance challenges, and it's called Specialty RX Advisor. Some of our recent content, just to give you an example of what we cover how to best deal with the surge in GLP-1s, which require shipping in 2 to 8.
Okay.
And also, when selecting a cold chain provider, what are the top questions you want answered? Another topic that we've recently covered is navigating all of the sustainable solutions that are available now for specialty pharmacies. Last one, we recently did pharmacy cold chain management in health systems. So covered a lot of topics in that article.
Excellent. All right, so we'd like you to be back on the Pharmacy Podcast Network at some point. We'll have to bring you back for an interview on This Week in Pharmacy.
That'd be great.
Well, thank you for being part of the NASP podcast.
Thanks for having me. And if anyone wants to subscribe, it is a free quarterly newsletter. They would just go to coldchaintech.com and look under the specialty pharmacy segment that we have on our website.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you so much, Todd.